Welcome in, guys. Welcome in to the Marshall Experience. Appreciate y'all being here and listening in tonight. Tonight we are covering fantasy football. Okay, the one thing that we love at the Marshall Experience is fantasy football. Before we dive into that, we're going to get into our who we're powered by and our sponsors. And we are powered by the Sports Lounge Media, guys. Big things happening over there at the Sports Lounge Media. It might have a big announcement coming in the next week or so. So, go give us a follow on all platforms, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, anything of that nature, and be along with the journey. And we are also sponsored by the Mogul brand. Appreciate them as well. Tonight we're talking about fantasy football. Right? Tuesday's fantasy football. But tonight we're going to talk about we've gotten into like the basics, right? We've gotten into the basics of it all and kind of dug deep into how we get to the drafting process. Okay. Now we got to the drafting process. Now we're going to go over some players that me at the Marshall Experience here thinks that is ideal to draft. Okay. These are going to be breakout players that I think are going to be valued at their draft position this year. Okay. We're going to go over about 10, 11 players. And again, we're going to go over these are going to be breakout players. Okay. So these are going to be players to draft. Okay. Really realistically, when prepping for your fantasy football draft, knowing which players to target and which players to avoid is, well, really the overall ideal, right? Because if you can do that, then you set yourself up for the best team possible. The amount of information, even in the 5-6 videos that we've already done, right? The amount of information when it comes to fantasy football can be very overwhelming. I, for one, know that. But I've been doing fantasy football for a very long time. A, B, it is a passion of mine. And C, it's football, right? There's not what's not to love. One thing that we want to pay attention to is that ADP. We've already went over that in previous videos. Again, if you guys are just joining in, go look at the older videos and kind of maybe catch yourself up to speed a little bit. These are things that we talk about. ADP, average draft position. Okay, average draft position means is where they are on average getting drafted. Okay. So that's one thing we want to pay attention to. In this way, we can identify players the experts are willing to reach for at the ADP and others that are not drafting until much later than average, right? So we're going to talk about 10, 11 players. So we're going to dive into a few fantasy football players that are going to, again, break out. These are guys that you're going to want to draft this year, okay? First and foremost, we're going to start out right from the gates. Quarterback, Drake May for New England. Okay, Drake May not have moved the needle for fantasy in his rookie season. Right, in his rookie season, he wasn't a hot commodity in the fantasy world. But his performance over 12 starts was impressive considering how terrible his supporting cast was, right? From week 6 of the last season, when May made his first start in week 6 through week 17, he averaged about 17 fantasy points, 16.8. He averaged about 17 fantasy points per game. Okay, he has immense potential as a passer. I firmly believe that. But for me, it was his rushing that should make him attractive to fantasy. May had 421 yards rushing last season, and there's potential for much, much more. I mean, the offensive line gets better, right? You get more weapons going deep. They have no weapons last year. Kendrick Bourne, Demario Douglas. Like they didn't have wide receivers. Hunter Henry. They didn't have these guys to throw to, right? Now they have Stephon Diggs. Now they have Kyle Williams, another rookie. On top of Kendrick Bourne, Demario Douglas, Kayshon Boutte, right? Now they're building this offense around him. Okay, go get Will Campbell with the 4th pick. It's all for Drake May. It is. As a sophomore in college at the University of North Carolina, May had almost 700 rushing yards in 14 games. Now, bear in mind that's college quarterbacks' sack yardage count against their rushing yardage. So May lost about 200 yards from his rushing total that year. So, I mean, we're looking at nearly 900. May should have it a little easier in the passing game this year, again, with Stephon Diggs, Kyle Williams. And in my opinion, guys, it is going to be a very potential, very possible that we get a breakout 2025 for Drake Maye. Keep that in mind. Next quarterback we're going to talk about, and I think that not a lot of people think about this quarterback when it comes to fantasy. Okay. Will 2025 bring the long-awaited Trevor Lawrence fantasy breakout? Okay. Number 1 overall pick in 2021. Really hasn't lived up to the hype, right? Lawrence has never finished better than quarterback 12 in fantasy points per game. He was limited to 10 games last year, missing time due to concussion and an AC joint injury in his shoulder that has required off-season surgery. There's optimism that 2025 will be the best season of his career. New head coach, right? Liam Cohen really got the maximum effort out of Baker Mayfield. Okay, we have to realize where Liam Cohen is just coming from. Tampa Bay and Baker Mayfield. I think that he could do maybe wonders for Trevor Lawrence. Okay. Now, however, on the other flip side of that, if Doug Peterson couldn't do anything with him, who is a past quarterback, there's the other side of the coin there. So it'd be interesting to see. They aggressively trade up to get Travis Hunter, which is the intention of giving him another wide receiver, right? You got Brian Thomas Jr., rookie last year, really came on the scene. You got now Travis Hunter. You got now Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, Bouchard Tootin, I think, went to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So they got a 3-headed monster in the backfield. I think that Trevor Lawrence is really set himself up to have his better fantasy season. I'm not saying he's going to be top 12. He can sneak a top 15 in there, which is one of his best seasons. Right? They're building around Trevor Lawrence, or they're giving Trevor Lawrence the weapons to have, hey, here's your chance. If you can't succeed, we're going to move on. Next player we're going to talk about is Bucky Irvin. Irvin's running back 19 fantasy points per game finished last year does not do him justice. Okay. Last year, after he wrestled the lead job away from Rachaad White. Rachaad White was drafted, I think, in probably the 4th or 5th round in drafts last year. I mean, Rachaad White didn't even get hurt, and he absolutely hurt fantasy teams last year. He was lights out as a running back 6 in fantasy points per game, averaging 18 touches and 115 total yards per game. Overall, Irving is fantastic, man. Fantastic. Ranked in top 15 in explosive run rate. 7th. Missed tackles, forced per attempt, 3rd. Yards after contact, 4th. The fantasy points are there, guys. These are the things that fantasy gods, fantasy geeks like myself look at. Okay, because he's giving you the best opportunities to go and make the opportunities. After week 9 last season, he had a 55% of the red zone rushing attempts as the preferred back near goal line over White and Tucker. Okay, so he is the preferred goal line back over both Rachaad and Sean Tucker as of last year. I think that he is a strong candidate for the lead back this year. I think they would be silly to put Rachaad White back into that role. It's his Bucky's job. Rachaad White, I could see maybe doing a third down back, being the pass catcher out of the backfield. But this is Bucky's offense. He should be realistically a 3-down back. Next running back, we'll talk about Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker from Seattle. In my eyes, it'll fly under the radar that Walker was a running back 12 in fantasy points per game last season. Running back 12. Unfortunately, his season was cut short by injuries, of course. And if Walker can stay healthy in 2025, I mean, he could finally put it together and have a top 5 back running season. Do I think that happens? That's a tough tale, right? But Walker proved last year that not only is he still one of the best pure rushing talents in the league, but he's also a true 3-down back with pass catching abilities. He proved that. Go look at the game log. Among 45 qualifying backs, Walker ranked 3rd in first downs per route run, 6th in target per route run, and 6th in receiving yards per game. So you're like, Chris, all he does is run the ball. All he does is run the ball. 6th in receiving yards per game. And that's on top of being hurt. The guy is a absolute monster out of the backfield when it comes to pass catching. Add all that on top of leading the NFL in missed tackles, forced per attempt, and ranking 10th in yards per contact. Yards after contact. Guys, this is my first bold prediction of the year. Okay? I firmly believe that Kenneth Walker is a league winner in 2025. I firmly believe that. If it doesn't work out at the end of the season, I'll stand in the paint. But I think Kenneth Walker is a league winner. Joe Mixon, next running back we'll talk about. I think the volume that he hogged in Houston last year really is what made him finish as a running back 8. Okay, running back 8. I think he's primed to do it again in 2025. Look at the Houston Texans. Last year, he ranked 14th in snap share, 5th in opportunity share. So what that means is he's playing 14th percentile in snap share. But when it comes to the opportunities, he's 5th. When he's on the field, he produces. And 6th in red zone touches. That's promising for touchdowns. The efficiency aspect hasn't been there, and I doubt it'll change in 2025. Last year, he ranked 22nd in explosive run. Not really, ranking well with the yards after contact or the missed tackles. But the point of this is the recent rookie, Woody Marks, in the 4th round, is probably the closest competition to the backfield per volume. Okay? Which means he's going to handle as much as he can this season. In my opinion, I think Mixon's a running back 2 with running back 1 upside. I think you're going to get him for a steal in the 4th or 5th round. I think he's going to have a top 10 season. Joe Mixon is going to be a good back. The Houston Texans don't have anything, guys. They have Nico Collins. They have a bad offensive line. What do you do when you have a bad offensive line? Well, we got to get the ball out quick, guys. Where's that ball going to? Probably, arguably, one of the best pass-catching running backs in the league in Joe Mixon. Just saying, it makes sense. Next running back we're going to talk about, and the last running back we're going to talk about, is Chuba Hubbard. Hubbard blew away everyone's expectations last year. Okay. Finished running back 13. He was the Panthers' every down workhorse and is primed to pick up that job again this year. Last season, he's ranked 3rd in snap share, 4th and opportunity share. If Carolina's offense at any standard, at any aspect in the way, can improve in 2025, so does Chuba Hubbard. So does Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard is the focal point of that offense that is not Bryce Young. Okay. The addition of Territo McMillan, the continued development of Xavier Legette and Jalen Coker. Can't forget about Coker. But the ascension of Bryce Young should improve all those numbers for Chuba Hubbard. I mean, we just realistically have to look at it. Hubbard has the talent, the projected workload to really crack the top 10 backs in 2025 for me. And Chuba Hubbard is a must-have this year for me. Okay. Davante Adams, first wide receiver we're going to talk about. Boy, let me talk to you about Davante Adams. Despite splitting time between the Raiders and the Jets last season, where he had no quarterback, and then he had Aaron Rodgers, but the Jets were abysmal, right? Abysmal. Davante Adams still posted his 5th straight 1,000-yard campaign and finished as a wide receiver 14. He averaged over 2 yards per route and ranked top 5 in both red zone targets and target shares. He's the guy Aaron Rodgers went to. He's Aaron Rodgers' guy, right? If he can develop that relationship with Matthew Stafford, not on that level because obviously Rodgers and Adams played together for eons, but any type of repertoire, any type of competitiveness that they can find between each other, Stafford and Adams, it could be the same way. He's a red zone target. That's what he is. Pairing him with Matthew Stafford only boosts his outlook. Okay, especially under dome conditions and a highly what I think is going to be a highly competitive NFC West. I think that's only going to help him in these tight games because they're going to want to go to him. I think he's going to feast as a reliable wide receiver 2 to Puka Nacua. And I think that, in the past years, Puka Nacua has missed a few games. In that aspect, Adams is, it only rises from there. Okay. Next wide receiver we're going to talk about is Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley quietly returned solid value in 2024. Topping 1,000 yards and leading the NFL in air yard share. So the amount the ball is traveling and he's making that catch. He's a deep threat, right? He's a deep threat for Tennessee. He's now got a brand new quarterback in Cam Ward. He surged late in the year, averaging 11 points per game after D-Hop was traded to the Kansas City Chiefs. With Nick Westbrook and Kanye gone and Cam Ward is his new quarterback, I think he remains as the clear wide receiver 1. He's never finished in his career less than wide receiver 26, making him a strong bet, in my opinion, to bet on his ADP again in 2025. Now, down south, I have not talked about J.K. Dobbins to the Broncos. We're just going over some fantasy things here yet. But we can talk about that at the end because that is interesting for fantasy and fantasy the fantasy world. Next wide receiver we're going to talk about is Jayden Reed. I think he flashed big play upside for me in 2024. He posted 2 games with 138 yards early in the season. Finished as a fantasy's wide receiver 26. However, I think that his slot-only usage capped his opportunity. I think now that they got Matthew Golden, I think Reed is still viewed internally as the the wide receiver 1. And an offense that likes to spread the ball around, though. I think his ceiling may be capped, but a bump in target share could lead Reed to smashing his ADP. I can't remember what his ADP is right now, but it's not high. So you getting him at a certain standpoint, I mean, this is an offense that likes to give the ball to Jacobs, likes to put the ball in Jordan Love's hands, right? So the ball is constantly moving in Green Bay's offense. Our first tight end that we're going to talk about, and the last player that we're going to talk about, I'm sorry, 2 more players. I apologize. 2 tight ends. First tight end we're going to talk about here is George Kittle. George Kittle for San Francisco. This man may be getting old, but he can still produce some fantasy. Okay. He's cleared 1,000 yards receiving in 2024 for the second straight year, finishing with 78 catches and 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns, despite missing even 2 games. Since his second NFL season, Kittle has finished tight end 3, tight end 2, tight end 3, tight end 4, tight end 2, tight end 5, and tight end 1. He's a top 5 tight end, guys, every year. His worst performance is a top 5. Kittle turns 32 in October, and his violent style has led to some injuries over the year. That's a big concern for Kittle, right? The injuries. I don't really think that he's shown any sign of slowing down, though. I think that I think that the 49ers not having a clear alpha wide receiver, it helps George Kittle, because I think he is the alpha wide receiver at that point. I think he's Purdy's favorite target. What does Ayuk do? Is he healthy? Juwan Jennings, what is he? Is he a star? Was it a fluke last year? You know, I mean, there's so many questions. CMC health, and it's insane with the San Francisco 49ers. But George Kittle is a bright spot. Last thing we're going to talk about here is Mark Andrews, tight end for Baltimore, right? Last year made a lot of people mad. A lot of people mad. You're probably thinking about Marshall. We can't be talking about Mark Andrews. Like Mark Andrews from Baltimore, the one that shit the bed in the first half of the season. Yes, I would tell you yes. That is exactly who we're talking about. He did get off to a slow start last year. Mark Andrews went on a touchdown spree that really reaffirmed his status as a top tight end in fantasy. 5 games into the 2024 season, Andrews had 10 catches for 120 yards and 0 touchdowns. He was tight end 32. There's 32 teams, guys. There was a lot of tight ends that were a lot better than Mark Andrews in the first 5 games. From week 6 through the end of the regular season, Andrews scored a total of 11 touchdowns in 12 games. Andrews turns 30 the day before the Ravens season opener, and I think that a lot of people suggest that his elite fantasy days are behind him. Okay, but Andrews has been a reliable touchdown scorer and remains an important cog to Lamar Jackson. I would consider him tight end 1 mid-range. Okay. I would consider him being my first tight end off the board if it was me drafting a tight end. Like if I'm getting, I'm going through my draft and it gets to round 7 or 8 and there's Travis Kelce's gone, George Kittle's gone, Sam Laporta's gone. I'm thinking about Mark Andrews. I think he has the ability to have a top 6 season. Okay. We'll talk about what Down South wants to talk about here. Boom. What about J.K. Dobbins going to the Broncos? So, today, J.K. Dobbins signs with the Denver Broncos, right? And I think we're back in the same position we were last year. The Denver running back room, I am completely avoiding. Completely avoiding. Not to mention that they drafted RJ Harvey. Then not to mention last year drafted Audric Estime. Not to mention that they have still Jaleel McLaughlin. They now have 4 running backs that are capable, guys. 4. I'm not sure what they're going to do. I mean, I could shake up a crystal ball and try to figure it out for you, but it's going to give you the best guess that I can give you. It's that messed up. I think at this point, if I were to have to throw a stone and hit somebody, I think that J.K. Dobbins is the clear starter. Should be, right? He just had a good year in LA if he stays healthy. I think that, they drafted RJ Harvey for a reason. Maybe they kind of shortcutted Audric Estime in just a 1-year rent, a 1-year showing. I thought he kind of was picking it up towards the end. But then you got Jaleel McLaughlin, who's kind of just keeps getting pushed down the depth chart. So I am avoiding the Denver running back room this year, and I would advise anybody out there to do so as well. So again, guys, I appreciate you. Here at the Marshall Experience. We appreciate you. Good conversation. We love fantasy. We hope that you enjoy the content. Give us a follow on all platforms. We thank Sports Lounge Media and the Mogul brand, and of course the followers and subscribers. So you guys have a good night, and hope you enjoyed the show.